Hi, Harshita ma'am. Hello.
Hi, Seth.
All welcome to the Billboard Club. So,
Thank you.
we'll start off with a small intros.
Okay.
You can start off with yours.
So I'm Harshita Lalchand.
Uh-huh.
I'm a behavioral and mental space psychologist, a psychology coach, social panorama consultant, NLP practitioner, and I'm the co-founder at All Is Well. At All Is Well, we deliver learning and development training programs for corporate, and our priority is always emotional and mental well-being.
Right.
We also provide employee assistance programs, and we help organizations and their employees ensure that they grow along. They are able to be resilient, emotionally intelligent,
Right.
and also perform well and be the best versions of themselves.
Right.
That's what we're doing at All Is Well.
A lot of labels. Can you go, please?
Hi, I'm Tushika Lalchand. I have recently completed my graduation. I have done my BA in psychology and I am co founder at All Is Well. Other than that, I've also done my NLP and I'm an NLP practitioner. I've also done a diploma in mental space psychology because psychology is something that I've always leaned into. I think other than that, a few things that I'm really passionate about have been public speaking. I've loved to speak at forums, at college, and other events. Wherever I got a chance to co-organize events, and always just step up to take up that responsibility. Other than that, I'm very passionate about photography, and I also like to indulge in that. So yeah, that's about me.
So, this is the first time that we're having a mother and a daughter duo. I want to take a few views of yours on parenting.
Okay.
Okay. How are this generation parents, let's say millionaires,
Right.
how are they parenting their children, and how, let's say, my parents, their generation is nurturing their children? What is different between them?
I think now the way I see it, parents are more flexible, they're more understanding, and they're more empathetic. Not that our parents weren't, but their understanding, the whole ecosystem was very different. If I look at myself as a parent and the way I've seen my children grow up, and I know probably the struggles that they're facing today, I totally understand that, there is something that I did not do correct as a parent. Definitely. I mean, probably when I see people around, I sometimes so wish had I done this, it would have been even better. That's the flexibility the parents have today. They sometimes I feel they also pamper too much, the parents today. But otherwise, I think they're more mindful of how to bring up their child. They're more aware. And if I look at myself, I was blessed with Tushika when I was 22. So if I had to look at that age, if I look at girls, they're not even thinking of marriage. She'll be 22 now. I can't even think of her marriage now. So nowadays, parents are, they get married at a more mature age. So they're more mature to take up and welcome the responsibility. And that makes a lot of difference in how they really nurture the whole, the whole parenting ecosystem. That is what I think is the major difference.
Okay. Talking about parenting, how did your childhood go?
I had a really good childhood, though we were in a joint family.
Oh.
So we had elderly people around. So there were certain limits that and boundaries that were set for us. Like one thing I specifically remember, and I always talk about this to my brother, that my brother is 10 years younger to me, and if I had to go to the nearest pawn shop to get something for myself, maybe a simple chocolate, my brother was asked to accompany me.
Okay.
So imagine, was I taking care of him or was he taking care of me?
It was letter.
But that's how things were. And again, no regrets as such, but there were a lot of aspects that we understand now. When mother speaks about it, she says how we used to do that, and she would laugh over it. She would say, that was something, we became wired to. We would tell you that you have to take your brother when you go out, you have to do this, you don't have to do this. Certain limits were set specifically, we being, I being a female, and those limits and boundaries were not set for my brother. So, but otherwise, besides, I had a very, very beautiful childhood where I was really taken care of well, and my education was really nice. So all of that is there. But little aspects which I recognize now and which actually, youth would speak about it loudly today were different. But then the whole ecosystem was also different. So no regrets as such. It's all fun and laughter.
So, do you think that scenario where you were living in a joint family and you're kind of oppressed if you're because
Right.
of your girl child? So, did that carry on to your career life in kind of a way where I was put down in my childhood, so now I have to stand up and tell the world to put out my name? It's a very psychological
I
question I'm
understand.
asking here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So here's the thing. When I got married, uh, I really wanted to pursue my MBA, but I got married right after finishing my graduation.
Which age did you get married in?
So I was 21 when I got
21.
married.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Huh.
So the dream of really pursuing my graduation, I had it always, and sometimes I would just sit and daydream about me actually studying and then having a small business of my own,
Right.
and just that very little thought would bring a smile to my face. My face would light up, and I would feel so happy about it. And then I'm like, oh my god, I'm back to reality. This is not happening at this moment, and I got busy with my daily household chores, family, children. I have 2 daughters, by the way. So, never really got time to focus on that part of, my. I was doing different things, but the study part, I was working. I worked during that span.
Right.
I did a lot of diverse, I have a lot of diverse work experience. Family business were there. There were other aspects here and there that I did. I freelanced, a lot of it. But then, I really wanted to pursue my MBA and get started of something of my own. That, and my husband knew about this.
Okay.
He and right after we got married, he actually asked me to get started with my MBA, and I was like, "It's okay. Let us take a few years, and then I will do it." But then that time never came. Actually, at that point in time, got so busy with my life, and then when he would ask me that why don't you get started, I would say no. This is not going to happen now. I can't get back to books. I can't study. I can't write those examinations again. This is not happening. But he would, constantly give me that push. And somewhere in my mind, that lingering thought would always be there, that have I done enough? Have I really lived the dream I always had, And that passion once actually gave me a lot of courage. And I decided to, because I wanted to do my MBA, so I thought I have to clear an entrance examination.
Right.
I was off studies for a very long time at that moment. And I thought, let me join a coaching institution which might just help me get back to studies, and I can appear for the entrance
Was
examination.
there any hesitation at that stage of your life where you're a little older than the people who get into these coaching
You've
centers?
just stolen this part of my story,
Oh, okay, sorry,
which is just coming in.
Sorry.
The thing is, no, not sorry, but yeah. So, and I was like firm and determined and just going to the coaching institute, and I'm like, this is happening, I'm doing it finally. Absolutely determined. And I reached the coaching institute, and we have a conversation there. I introduce myself, and there are about 50 people in that room, and the head of that organization, he's sort of inducting everyone, giving an introduction. We've not signed up for the program. We're still giving our introductions, and he's telling us about the program.
Right.
And towards the end of the whole session, he asked me and only me to stay back in the room.
Okay.
I was like, okay, I'm the special one. But once I stayed back, and he asked me about my background, and he said, Harshita, I want you, to have things very clear in my mind. I'm not, making things flowery for you, but let me just help you understand that this is not going to work for you. With the kind of responsibilities that you're telling me you have 2 children who are still young, they need your time, you need to nurture them, you need to take care of, your family. This is not working out for you. Think about it. And at that moment, everything seemed to be lost for me. And I came back home with tears in my eyes, and trying my best that nobody actually
Noticed.
sees my tears and nobody sees me crying. I just wanted to walk off. And to my surprise, at the moment I reach home, my younger daughter, so she's 18 now, She opens the door, and that time, this is about 10, almost 10 years back. So she opens the door for me, and she's crying. And I'm like, what happened? She's like, Mama, I have my maths exam tomorrow. I know nothing. I will definitely fail. I said, you know everything. You've been studying through the year. I have sat with you. It's okay. Just revise and it'll be fine. No, Ma, I'm not remembering anything. You look at the notebook. I'm definitely failing, and she's crying. Now, I gathered myself, sat there with her, and I sat all night. This was late evening when I came back. I sat with her all night, making her study, and more than that, making her feel confident about the fact that you can do it. It's okay. Just go and do it. She actually wrote her exam, got very good marks, decent if not very good. And she came back to me and she's like, Mama, I am so thankful. Thank you so much. You made this happen. I was like, I didn't do anything. It's you who did it. Just believe in yourself. You already have the power. You can do it. And she's like, that little girl there tells me, Ma, you know what? You can do it too. Go do your MBA. And those words, Saif, were power for me at that moment. I don't know. I don't. You know, we see it around, we hear it around that motherhood has that power. Those little few words sort of made me realize I'm the superwoman. I can do just everything I wish to do today. And I definitely didn't go back to that coaching institute. I went to a different coaching institute. Passed out, and I got admission, and I started doing my MBA, and this was after a gap of 14 years in my education that I did a full-time MBA. And this definitely comes not just with the words, the power words of my daughter, but it was the whole ecosystem that powered me, specifically my family. My husband has been very supportive. He was the one who would actually tell me, you have to study. What are you doing sitting at home? My mother-in-law was like my backbone, because unless I have support at home, the support system, I really cannot step out of the house and do the things that I want to. Until the time I'm able to automate things, I needed that support. So they formed that support, and after my finishing my MBA, I went on to do my MSc in psychology. I did various other certifications, NLP, MSP, social panorama, and then was the time that I decided I am there, probably ready to start something of my own. So if you have to talk of the hindrances, the question that you had specifically, I think the only and only hindrance I had was in my mind, my self-doubt. I always thought I can't do it. And the little things that happened around me gave me that confidence to actually do it.
Right.
I think I made the story very long, but that's
You
my
narrated
experience.
it so sweetly. I was just like going like this. So I'll just shift it to
Yeah,
her.
please.
So that was Mama's story, how things were happening at the house and how she started her career after 14 years. Now, you tell me, how did you feel at this stage? How was your childhood? How was this affecting your childhood? In a good way or in a bad way? You tell me.
So I think for me, my role model has always been my mother, because as she narrated the story, it's always been, I've seen her do so many things despite the hindrances that came throughout the way. She's always achieving something or the other. And I think just having grown up seeing that, both my parents, they're very dedicated in whatever they do. They give it their all. And I think just seeing that inspired me a lot to just give it my all in whatever I was doing, let's say in academics or in the sports that I was participating at in school. And but I would say as parents, they've always been very present parents. They would take out time, they would sit down with us, talk to us whenever they could, whenever we got time. We had this thing where every week we would sit down, rewind, talk about everything that's happened with everybody through the week. So that way they've been very present parents, and there was no hindrance that way. And I think other than that, because I did see my mom doing all of this, for me in 2019 there was this competition that was happening. It was for students to pitch their startup ideas.
Okay.
And there was 25 participants who were shortlisted from my school. And then we were asked to pitch these ideas to our teachers, and then we were to be shortlisted to go to the district level of it.
Right.
And I think that's where for me my passion in mental well-being and in general just talking about these problems being more mindful of everything started. And then I pitched this idea of mental well-being for adolescents at the time, of how, because this was around the same time when we were in the lockdown, when
Right.
you know, people, especially people around me, I saw my friends, I saw myself, because we were in such a social bubble sitting at home. It was not very difficult for us. I was like, there's no proper solution for this, and working on that can be something that can really work out for me and as well for the others, help the others. So I pitched my idea for this and it got selected, but then at the time it couldn't quite materialize. 2-3 years later, we ended up incubating our startup, still very mental well-being focused, but for different, like for the organizations and for corporates as such. But I think that idea just stayed with me, and I think I was just always inspired to, help others, because I saw them always being very present, and I like, not everybody has the same parent support system that I do at home.
Right.
And for that, I think the startup was very effective and helped us, get there. Yeah.
So you graduated as a psychologist. Correct?
I have done my BA in psychology
Okay.
along with English literature and journalism as well. So this was an integrated course, but I've done other certifications that have helped me further my psychology knowledge. So yeah.
You also have done a psychology degree. Why do you think one has to pursue a psychological degree?
It's actually not about one has to pursue.
I'll
to
I'll ask
explore.
you. I'll tell
Yeah.
you why I'm asking you this.
Right.
Me and my co-founder Mohit, we went to an event. So there was a speaker called Hari P.
Okay.
He was into entrepreneurship and everything. We had around 3 guests there. Among these 3 guests, Hari was the only one who was the best speaker.
Okay.
He gave out knowledge for like 5 minutes and he cracked a joke. So it was very engaging.
Right.
His speech was the only one which stood out for us. Then me and Mohit went to him and asked him, "Sir, how do you do it, sir? We wanted to know." He's like, I mean, I understand humans, and he gave us a very niche answers. We're not able to understand. Sir, any clue of where this hit in your life? So I said, I did my psychological degree, and I have certifications in it. So that actually helped me to understand human behavior and sorts. So that's how it helped him.
Right.
That's why I am asking you, is it worthy for everyone to do a psychological degree to like understand humans better, or is it only specifically niched for people who are like, let's say, treating mental health patients, or training corporates as well?
Right. I think you've summed it up right. It's not really necessary for someone just trying to be in the field to have that knowledge. Definitely, there are certain areas and certain professions where that certification is a must. That's something different. But I have to talk of myself. If I have to talk of how and why I did it. So while I was doing my MBA, I started freelancing as a trainer, and that's what I've done. For a great part of those years when I was studying. So I was working with organizations, and these were basically soft skills training. So when I was working with these employees in organization, corporate employees, what I realized was when I would work with them and I would let them know about aspects and we were learning together, I realized that all is not well when it comes to the emotional and mental well-being of these employees. There was definitely support required at that end, and this was not at one instance that the realization came. I was training for a long span, working with different sectors and industries, and I saw it across that it's everywhere. That because for example, I'm dealing with a soft skill issue, and if, for example, it is about communication that I was talking about. Now I can give them tips of how they can work in their communication at that moment. But communication is not just about being able to the softer aspects that we discuss in a communication. So if I have to describe, it's how you get onto the wavelength of the other person, but it's beyond that. For example, there would be an aspect of confidence that would come in, an aspect of self-belief that would come in, and all of this is nothing but emotional and mental well-being.
Right.
So I was, because of the limit that we had in the time, because of the topics that I had to cover, I was never able to, really cover those aspects of emotional and mental well-being. I would try my best, but I knew I was not able to. And that made me realize that, this is something I need to address. And when I had to get into that sort of a profession and those trainings, I knew I needed deeper understanding. I mean, all of us can speak good about what should be done, what cannot be done, but sometimes when you are with people, it's sometimes if they really believe in you, they may just follow you whatever you say, even blindly, if I may put it. So it's important that what you say is backed with something scientific. So that is where I felt the need of my knowledge being backed scientifically with education, so that I can make sure that when I go and speak to these individuals, I am understanding human behavior to its core. And that's when I decided I need to do a psychology course. But in general, I have to speak, if somebody just has this interest or needs to get into this, it's not a compulsion to really. And there is so much content available on social media nowadays. You if you do not require the degree as such, where sometimes which is required, if you, as I said, certain professions would definitely require it, but if you do not require a degree as such, there is so much open content available on the internet for you to brush and learn. So in that sense, I don't think the degree is essential.
A connecting question to this. Unlike subjects like STEM subjects, science, maths, or engineering, I personally feel subjects like literature, subjects like psychology or philosophy can't really be taught to a person. I mean, you can you can give them books, you can put exams, you can test them all.
Right.
But psychology, the philosophy, these are all about inner thing.
Right.
Like the thoughts you have, how you perceive with people.
Right.
It's that way. So your corporate trainer, yourself, how does one organization teach these things to their team when their team, the people in their team are not as such of a very extroverted person? They're maybe introverted, and they have spent almost all of their life, like
Right.
20-25 years, isolated from society, studying. Or better example, take someone who has studied, who is in this IIT rat race, has been to IIT and has been there for 23 years.
Right.
So in that race,
Right.
how does that person come out and deal with all of this?
So I think, it's not just about this particular aspect that you're talking about. Any training that we take up, and any learning that the organization wants their employees to have, or the employees themselves want to have, I think it's the contribution of both the organization and the individual who is
Right.
there for a training. Like, for example, if the organization has to ask me, would there be 100% ROI? Would everybody have the same learning? I can never assure that, because we're dealing with, like you rightly said, we're dealing with people. It's human behavior. No one person, no two people are alike. Every person will have different ways of responding and perceiving things differently. So it's the responsibility, because you're asking me how do I deal with it. I feel it's my social responsibility. Besides my social responsibility, it's my business. So I have to put in my heart, soul, blood, tears, everything in there, and I do that. But it's also the responsibility of the organization and the individual.
Right.
The organization has to make sure that they support every individual, and make sure that every individual is able to add value. And similarly, which I see is happening, I will not complain about that. Organizations know and understand now that there is a need to for people to learn these skills, and for people to in some cases it is upskilling, in some cases it is just learning these new skills and learning different ways and shifting their ways and approaches of how they're working. And they do understand that. But for the individual also, it's very important to understand that I have to take this step further. In fact, at this moment, Saif, I'm reminded of one of these stories. This is not from a corporate though. So I was in a college. I had the responsibility of evaluation of students. So this was a part of the assessment process. So what I was asked to do is, there was this batch of I think 40 or 50. I was asked to give them a topic each, where they had to come up on stage and speak on the topic for about 3 to 4 minutes, and basis a lot of criteria that I had to evaluate them. So this is what I had to do, and I was there. There was this girl who came up, and I gave her the topic. I told her, speak about your father. She looked a little hesitant, should I say, and I said, speak about your father. And I thought that's a pretty simple topic. Even as a child, I know a child will say, my father's my hero, and it'll start. So I was like, okay, let me give her a start, so she will speak about her father.
Right.
And this girl looked up, she looked down, she looked lost, and I'm like, she's not able to speak properly, she's very nervous. I waited for a few seconds, and in a matter of 10 to 15 seconds, somebody just came close to me and said, ma'am, she just lost her father a few days back. And
Sorry to hear.
there was a wave of emotion within me, which I definitely could not speak about at that moment. And I just was silent, but then I said, you know what, I'll change the topic for you. And I was about to speak, and she says, no ma'am, it's okay. I said, no, I will change the topic for you, and rest assured, this will in no way affect your marks. Because I was like, she might feel that, she's going to cut down on my marks, the evaluation will go down. I said, this will not affect the assessment at all. Don't worry, I will change the topic for you. What she said at that moment stays at my heart always. She said, with tears in her eyes, she said, ma'am, when my father was alive, he's always been my strength, and I cannot allow him to become my weakness when he's no more.
Very strong girl.
Saif, I was speechless for a few moments. She spoke. I frankly, I don't know what she spoke about, because I was just taken aback. Now, why I tell you this is, she, after going through all of this, did not want to give up, had the resilience to move forward. She had faced so much, but yet the determination she had was, she was amazing. I mean, I have no words. I still have no words. When I speak about it, I still get goosebumps. I still get tears in my eyes. The way, I can still visualize the whole thing. And the reason I speak about this is, if even 1% of the resilience that girl carried, we are able to, with the kind of situations we are facing, I think everything's going to be just perfect. So from the employee's perspective I was speaking about, like, this was from the organization, they have to have the responsibility, they have to value each individual. But from an employee perspective, we also have to understand that, this is our journey. I have to take it forward no matter what. Oftentimes, employees might feel that, nahi ho gaya, I'm done. Can't take it more, can't take it further.
Right.
But maybe, and just maybe, we can stop, pause, and just understand things and see if we can take it further in whatever direction. I'm not saying, there's one direction. There is so much to do. She took time, that girl took some time, but she made sure she spoke. And for a fact, she did not speak well. But those few lines spoke about the power she had. So I think that is something that, I learned from. Big deal. Often then when I face certain circumstances which are hard, which are harsh, I remind myself of that girl. If she can, when such a huge thing happened to her, why can't I?
Quite inspirational. So the reason why I was asking this, so we are college students.
Right.
We had this course called Human Values,
Okay.
where it's just basically teaching students how to behave.
Right.
And it was in our third year. But for some reason, even for that, subject, we had exams and people tried to copy from other people.
Okay.
There were so simple questions, as in, if you have someone who has been through some hardship in their life and they're sitting beside you, how do you deal with them? How do you make sure they're comfortable? Write a 200-page answer for it. 200-word
Words
answer for it.
Yeah.
Still people are copying for
Right.
it. So that made me question, like, you can teach maths, you can teach science, but these EQ core skills
Right.
can't really be taught in colleges, is what I thought. So I wanted to ask you that question. Last question on psychology. I won't bore you guys. What is NLP?
Psychology
Both of you have
never
done.
bores me, don't worry.
Wonderful then. So what is NLP? I was researching about all of this. There's a specific word called NLP in both of
Right.
your careers that you have
Right.
done. What is NLP?
Maybe she can
I
take
think
that.
Yeah.
I'll take that question up. So NLP stands for Neuro Linguistic Programming. That is the acronym for that. And what that essentially means is, if we break that into three terms: neuro, which means our thoughts; linguistic, which means the language that we're talking in;
Right.
and programming is how we're behaving, how our behavior goes, and how our actions are. How all of these come together and they shape the experiences that we go through in
Is
our
it
life.
related to affirmations?
Part of it.
Part of it?
Let me actually.
Yeah,
you
she
please
will-
continue, please.
Okay, so I will explain this to you in the form of like
Yeah,
a simple
maybe that'll
story.
help, that'll
Yeah.
help.
So like, let's say there's this girl. She loves to dance and she loves performing, right? Once she goes on stage and ends up having a bad performance, messes up a little bit, and this tends to affect her self confidence in a way that now she feels that I can't do this anymore. I'm too scared of it, and dancing is not for me. She's told herself all this, that, you know what, because I've embarrassed myself, what if I do that again, and what if I end up going on stage. Every time now that she goes on stage, her heart just starts pounding and her legs freeze, and she just gets the memory of that one incident. So now what NLP comes in here, and what it essentially does is it rewires the software of your brain, and in a way that you will reframe what you're saying. Let's say if I say, what if I mess up again? But instead of that, what if she says, okay, but what if I enjoy the moment? And what if instead of that, I actually end up having a really good performance? So it's mostly about just how the self-talk that you give yourself, and how you tell yourself that you're going to be in a situation, and how that helps to just rewire the negative patterns, and just in general improve your confidence, your communication, and overall how you present yourself.
So it
That is-
emphasizes basically on the words that we use, not just the words that we hear from others, but the way we describe ourselves to ourselves, and the way we talk about ourselves, the self-talk that goes on, as she was saying. Those words have a profound impact on the kind of person we are and we become. And NLP would help us reframe the way we speak to ourselves. If I have to put
Ma'am,
it
what is
short.
the connection between psychology and spirituality? While she was saying, I was thinking of this. There's this book called Law of
Right.
Attraction, Law of Manifestation, things like that. So NLP sounds kind of like that.
Right.
This affirmations, law of manifestation.
Right.
So is there any connection between them?
I wouldn't say there's a direct connection between using spirituality and NLP, right? Uh, no direct connection, but I think, what if you look at any of these streams, let it be NLP, let it be psychology, let it be broader aspects of when we talk about mental health. When we're talking of mental health, what are we looking at? When you're talking of all these aspects, I think broadly and very, very broadly, we're looking under the umbrella of inner peace. That's the commonality between any of these, aspects that we're looking at. How can we really achieve? The approaches will be different, the ways, the techniques might be different, but I think if you have to take spirituality, or if it is religion, in religion, the person's faith will guide that person towards, the inner peace that they want to attain. In
Right.
spirituality, similarly, they will have different approaches of guiding themselves towards spirituality, towards mindfulness, and then ultimately inner peace.
Right.
So NLP would also do that, but it is of how you can reprogram your brain with certain language patterns. It's more about language patterns. So I think the whole idea is guiding. This is what I feel. All of these would lead you towards being able to achieve that inner peace. And inner peace is not something that we would attain in a moment or for a moment. It is a journey.
What are your views on religion / spirituality as an individual, both of you?
Would you like to take that?
I think I am a religious person. I do believe I am not specifically religious in the way that there's just one God. I do believe that there's a higher force. There is some God out there, or there's some power out there that is probably listening to us, or in a way just like kind of a holding hand whenever we need it, sort of thing. And yeah, I think to that higher force, I do believe that manifestation is connected to that. So anytime I'm manifesting that, this higher force is also being able to listen to whatever I'm saying to myself, the self-talk, or what I'm saying to others, that kind of thing. So I think there is like some connection, and I do believe that there is some higher force. But yeah, that's what my belief about that is.
So I think I would go along with what she says. I wouldn't call myself too religious, sitting for hours, in a temple. But then, religion is something I do believe in. I do believe in spirituality. Meditation is something that I feel can make real difference. The mindfulness aspect. It really helps you balance things, which is very important. Just to calm yourself is something which people find very difficult, and actually that's the crux of everything. Every issue that you see happening at this moment, from stress to anxiety to depression to reactions to children. If it was children, they're misbehaving, they're not connecting with their parents. All of us, this is because we're not able to calm ourselves. Not those children. In that case, it's the parents. They're not able to calm themselves at that moment. So what we really require is to be able to be calm, and in any way we are able to achieve it is good. So I wouldn't say being religious is good or being spiritual is good, or neither is good. It is a personal choice, I feel. So the way you like it. I will go back to the original thing that I had, the original answer I had, which was the initial answer that I had, which was, it's all about the inner peace. Where do you feel that you are you, that you're able to connect with yourself?
Right.
That's what, you can follow.
Do you think on an average, a person, let's take a group of 10 people who are religious, let's take a group of 10 people who are not religious.
Okay.
Do you think among both of these groups, who do you think has more inner peace, happiness, satisfaction in their lives?
I think I've met a couple of people from both these groups. Absolutely, yes, because I can get those names and faces. This, and I'm also categorizing, not right, but yes, I'm doing it, and I'm segregating them. But then I feel it's mixed. It's not about religion here. I feel, Saif. It's more about you were talking about it, the values. It's more about the values we are holding, and I think the crux should be not really. The intentions have to be right. You're making sure that you're not, when you're in presence, when you're in a group, you're not hurting people. Your intentions are clear. You want to support. You want to help. You want to be you and let others be. If that is something we're able to do well, I think that is good. So I wouldn't say a religious or a non-religious person would do justice or would not do justice, or be good or not be good. So it's all about the values, I feel. It boils down to the values that a person has.
Talking about values and these things, let's transition to your entrepreneurship journey.
Okay.
You're a wonderful storyteller, that I can tell from the way you're talking. It has just translated to your daughter as well. How important do you think storytelling is to an entrepreneur?
Very, very important, you know. Uh, it's if I have to put it up very very simply, it's about experiential learning. You know, we often hear about this. You know, experiential learning. What is experiential learning? It's learning from your own and others' experiences. And you know, for example, I'm in a meeting, or I'm speaking to a client, and you know, I have witnessed when the client is not really uh, you know, buying my idea, should I say. You know, story has oftentimes helped me just to tell them, you know what, the problem that you're facing, this occurred, and this is what we did, and just pulling up a story from their little story and letting them exactly live that moment. That's storytelling. It's not just narrating the past incident, but you know, helping them live that moment is what storytelling is all about. And I think that has helped not just my clients, but you know, when I say clients, I mean the management when I'm speaking to them and I'm pitching. Also in my training sessions, it helps the delegates connect with the idea I'm talking about. They're able to validate that yes, what she just said was true because she's experienced it. If she not personally, somebody else has really experienced it. So that, I think, you know, storytelling for me, it works wonders. I mean, right from a child who can barely talk, they would listen to the story with their mouth open maybe. And you know, from to that most elderly person, they would also always be open to stories, even if they're not open to your idea. So I think stories open the doors even for difficult conversations.
Right. Got it. So, can you also tell me about how was your journey as, you know, as a female entrepreneur?
Okay. Oh, it's been a mixed bag. There have been triumphs, there have been challenges, right from the very beginning. You know, from me trying to learn, from me trying to fit in, from me trying to, you know, break the stereotype. This is one part of it. The other part is, you know, there are a lot of forums that I've been given a lot of importance. And sometimes, you know, people would also say, Ki Harshita ji, you're a woman, you're getting undue importance. So that part of it also, you know, comes in. I understand. So I think it's a mixed bag. And now, because you just said I'm a storyteller, that reminds me of a story again, of a, you know, of a triumph that, you know, I think as an entrepreneur I've had. Definitely not bragging about anything here, but there was this, you know, I remember in college, there was this free period that we had, which we used to call, and we were all, you know, group of 40 to 50 classmates, everyone in the room, college. And everybody just started like, okay, let's share about our aspirations with each other. And I'm like, and I stood up and I'm like, I want to be a leader. And there was this person, a little far apart, and he said, he didn't say anything, not about girls. That's what he did. You know, just asked me to sit down, not about girls, and what followed was laughter, mere laughter. Frankly speaking, after saying that, I too was like, why did I even say that? I mean, I can't be a leader. I'm just here studying from, you know, a family, a very modest family, a very humble family, and I don't know, I'm not going to be a leader. Why didn't I? I mean, I was just left in self-doubt, and I think things were done there. Fast forward maybe 18, 19 years and see how destiny works. I'm in a training session and I see this same person in that training. And guess what? This training is on leadership.
Nice.
And I'm on this side of it. I mean, I'm not bragging about it, but the thing is, that person didn't even recognize me. Right. I really wanted to go back and tell him, do you remember me? But then, but you know, in reality, that was not what I wanted to do. What I could do at that moment was really prove, you know, to myself that yes, Harshita, you did it. You came to the other side. So I think, you know, that was a turning moment for me. It really helped me work through it.
Can you talk about the places you are incubated in?
So we're incubated at NSR Cell, IIM Bangalore, and also IIMV Field, IIM Vishakhapatnam. We were also part of a incubation program in IIM Kolkata Innovation Park.
Another question around colleges again. Do you think it is necessary to do an MBA? Because I'm assuming you started your entrepreneurship journey after you did an MBA. After doing your MBA, do you think it is worth it if one to start in business?
Right. So I would say, learning at any point in time can never be a waste. Whether or not it is really important, again, would depend on the person, the kind of background that they've had, the knowledge that they've already gathered or not gathered. If they really wanted to get, they've not got the exposure that they need. Like for me, I had done my MBA before. I even got the idea of, having a startup. But when I started up, there were so many aspects I learned again. I unlearned and I relearned. So, it's never about just doing an MBA and getting into entrepreneurship, or not doing an MBA and getting into entrepreneurship. Both are possible. It's about the person and how you want to take it forward. What kind of learnings do you feel you've had, and what kind of support do you need? So, for example, these incubation programs were a great source where I got mentorship, hand holding. Beside the subject knowledge that was there, we had master classes on the core subjects, and this was more experiential for me because I had the idea in hand. Whatever I was learning, I was bringing into practice. So that was the difference between the MBA and while I got started. So I wouldn't say it is not really necessary or necessary, again depending on the person and what kind of background they've had.
Did you come from a business family? You came from a joint family.
A business family.
A business family. So how did that affect into this? Do you think your family being in a business environment that kind of made you indirectly go into the entrepreneurship side of things, or
you know
is
what,
it...
Seth, you've actually made me think about this. I never thought about this, but maybe that was somewhere ingrained in me because obviously I saw my father and I had my uncles. We were in a joint family, all of them into business, and seeing them do it, and like every daughter, I always was. My dad was my inspiration. I would see him and he would go out. So his business was such that he had to travel for some time. And we would wait for him to get back because I knew he would get goodies for us. So yes, he was an idol and I always saw him. So maybe because you say it, I am sure now and I'm thinking about it and I'm sure I'll go back and think more about this. But I think that must have got ingrained in me at some point in time. And that is why the dreams that I was talking about, I always had that passion doing something of my own, maybe.
With these questions to you, describe in one line what exactly does All Is Well do?
In one line, I think just help people in ways that could include leadership, could include communication, but all of this tied down together in a way that the base of all of this is emotional and mental well-being. So connecting all of these things, topics that we usually listen to, like you said, human values, behavioral aspects that we just read about and we come across, but they're just like terms we listen to. But then connecting that to how we function, how we are wired, I think that is what All Is Well does in delivering the sessions that we deliver.
How do you perceive entrepreneurship?
How do I perceive it? I think I would say it's a mixed ball, of course, but mostly I think it's very empowering being an entrepreneur because there's no set rules or there's no set boundaries or limits to how much you can do, and nobody's telling you what to do. I think that's also a challenge. That's like a two-sided coin where you're not being told what to do. Nothing is being delegated to you. You're the one who has to make that path for yourself and then walk on that path. So I think I would perceive it as something that's a very empowering journey, like I said. But yeah, to be an entrepreneur is somebody needs to be very resilient, needs to be able to take the setbacks when you go to a client, they don't like the idea or they're not they don't agree with you, they don't align with the way that you are, how you bounce back. I think that's a very important learning that you get as an entrepreneur. I think it's a very powerful experience to be an entrepreneur. Yeah.
Right. Do you think after joining your mother in the combined venture, do you think more and more young people should start off with starting a company, or start working in a company and then maybe get some experience? Because you're mentioning that it is not that easy. You need a lot of resilience to do it. So what do you recommend? Now you have gotten into this. What do
Yeah.
you recommend?
I think it really just depends on the person and what kind of upbringing they've had, one, and how they really function. Because if you're somebody who's able to function on deadlines, somebody who's able to, do something only when you're told to do it, being an entrepreneur wouldn't be for you, because it's you who have to tell yourself. And if you're lazing around, if you're not, standing up for yourself, is difficult. But I feel like if you're not that, then working in a corporate does provide the experience that probably this wouldn't, because you interact with a lot more people there. Here is just a team of the few of us. We're just learning from each other. In a corporate, it's a much more vast world where you're learning much more. But of course, because we are still interacting with a lot of clients, that learning is still there. So it does come down to the kind of person that you are. But for me, I think being an entrepreneur has been a very crucial learning for me. Every new session that we get, every client that we meet, it teaches you something new, and it's all about the experiential learning that happens through it. And yeah, I don't know if that the same would happen in a corporate environment or not, because I haven't worked in it. But yeah, I'm sure the learnings that would provide entrepreneurship would in different ways.
What do you think being a
Sir,
young...
I'll just stop you there and
Sure, sure.
add a line here.
Sure.
She's been my best critic as well,
Okay.
As a child, when I have often told her, don't do this, don't do that. So now, I think there's a role reversal. And when I come back from a lot of, when there's a meeting, when there's a hectic day, she'll tell me, Mama, why do you say this? Why do you do that? So, that's something that I think, and I feel proud about it when I see her doing that, telling me that, Mama, why this, why that? You could have done it, in this manner better. So I think her learning curve is on. And I, as a mother, I feel proud about it, that I'm able to be a part of this journey, see her grow, see her not just empower herself, but also people around.
No, I also think that is on your side as well, because taking in critique from your own daughter, I don't see most people doing that. So it's on you also, that you are actually taking those advice and then thinking, what am I doing wrong? And so let's continue here. So how do you think your personal life has been influenced by becoming an entrepreneur at this age, at a young age?
I think so. When we registered and incorporated as a startup, is when I was in my second year of college. So, yeah, I just got done with the first year of my college, and I was starting the second year. So I think it does affect you a little bit, because at the time when you have to balance like your academics and your extracurriculars at college, I was also at the same time ensuring that all the operations, all the back-end work of the startup is being done.
Right.
So in that way, I think it has affected me. But I think mostly, I would say it has in a good way, because, and I don't mean this in a demeaning way, but the people that I'm surrounded by, I know that the experiences that I've had would be much more enriching than a person would just have in college. So while I was also in college, I was studying. Because I was studying psychology, the startup for me was like just a way of coming back and putting that into practice in a lot of ways in the sessions that we were curating. So I think it's been really nice for me that way. And I don't think at any point it hindered the social life that I should have had otherwise. I would give myself time. I would still go out with my friends. Anything that any other college student would do, I would still very much do that. So yeah, it's been a nice balance between the two.
The college was also your testing ground for a lot of things. We curate something new, like that becomes a testing ground. Let me see how it works.
So a lot of management skills there. managing multiple areas of life.
Yeah.
Any advice on people? Any advice for people?
I think advice in such a thing is um, essentially just words that'll come out of my mouth and that'll seem like, advice that they hear from everybody else, unless you're actually in that situation when you actually have to, navigate through whatever all the challenges that, let's say, the startup or the college deadlines, the assignments are throwing at you. I think it also comes from the fact that I'm somebody who does not like being idle at all. I want to always be doing something, like something or the other. I just want to keep at it always, because if I'm idle, I'm just like, I don't know what to do. I can't sit like that. I need to be doing something.
Right.
So for me, I think that way it's been a little easier because I've been that person. But I think in terms of advice to people for managing, I think when you're in that situation and when you're, I wouldn't say forced to, but when you are expected to do those responsibilities
Right.
at the same time, managing a lot of things, you do. And I think that again comes down to just having to experience it in order to be able to manage it. But yeah, mostly I think it's just that drawing boundaries with your time, how you're going to divide your time. And let's say if I have exams, if I have final exams, but at the same time there's some session, I would structure it in a way that, maybe the weekends I'm giving it to, working on the session, sitting down with my mother. The rest of the time I'm doing, like, let's say, a group study or something or the other, in a way that, I've balanced the two things. So, but yeah, mostly what I think is that it would come when you're actually in that situation. And I think as humans, we do tend to have that, that tendency to be able to figure out what you have to do when we are put in a situation like that.
Okay. Quite diplomatic answer, though. It's okay. So, I want to talk about the mental health scenario that is happening in India, because we have someone from both ends of the spectrum, someone who has lived the past times and now as well. In the recent times, you see a lot of increase in mental health issues like ADHD, anxiety, depression, and everything. Why do you think this is causing? And do you think this is specific to this generation, or is it that your generation as well had it before when you're growing up, but there was no one or not any way to channel it out? Today, she or I can just tweet it out or put a story
Absolutely.
and tell people that, I'm not feeling well.
Right.
But at your time, maybe the channels were not there. But today they
Absolutely.
are there.
I agree.
What do you think of it?
I agree, absolutely agree. I mean, the awareness has gone up, Seth. So with that awareness and the willingness to voice your thoughts, that has, something that is powerful now. People are aware of what is happening. All this, must have happened in the past as well.
Right.
Maybe if not as much, but yes, it did happen. But people did not have the courage to voice their, struggles and their pains and their issues. And now people are voicing. Moreover, social media, as you've mentioned,
Right.
it helps you, it's again, two-sided sword, I would say. One can leverage,
Right.
definitely, and it is also pulling you back both ways. And more, I think it's also because of the pandemic. I think the pandemic really made things, turned things to the other side of it, and people faced it more, these vulnerable situations, mental health issues. They faced such situations more because of the pandemic, and because of all the ecosystem, the social media there, the willingness to really voice your thoughts, all of this being there. I think we're getting to know more about it, we're hearing more about it, which is in a way good, because people are voicing, we are knowing, and we're able to think about it, at least even as an individual. Not definitely talking of the gossip aspect of it, because that also becomes one, people don't
True.
even know about the whole issue, and they would give in their advice, the free suggestions that they have. But otherwise, it gives you a chance to have your perspective and understand, observe and learn. That's very important.
And I think I will add to that. Social media, I think for us, like in our generation, Gen Z, it has also created this illusion that we're all very close because we have, let's say, a lot of followers on Instagram, or we're just like anybody that I know in my friend group is just one call or text away.
Right.
But what that translates into is also like, actually, I should talk about this story. So very recently, we had this alumni meet of my school where we met up. A few friends, all of us met up, and we were sitting and talking about everything that has happened over the past few years,
Right.
what we've learned, our learnings, whatever. And there's this one friend of mine. Now, so she's been somebody whose life, if you look at on Instagram, you'd think she's had it all figured out. On Instagram, she's traveling all the time. She's going to places and she's exploring. So, as me, or as all of the other people that were in that group, we assumed that she's doing really well in life. She's had it all figured out. And so when we were talking, this conversation came up about the rough patches that we've had in the last few years after school, what's been difficult for us, how we've actually come out into the real world, adulting, and how that's very different from how school was. And while everybody was answering, we just happened to skip her because we were like, why will she have a problem? She appears to be like the
Right.
happiest person out there, right? Like, why will she have to, have something to talk about on that? And right after that, we see that she suddenly broke down and she's in tears, and we're like, oh, did we say something bad? And then she was like, that's the problem about today, that because you have to appear to be happy on social media, or you have to portray a certain stance of yourself on social media. Because of that, people, if they even if they want to talk about how they're feeling, they tend not to. And when they want to, in a situation where she could have, we just assume that she's doing okay. So I think, like, as Gen Z, we do talk a lot about mental health, we talk about therapy, we talk about the awareness around it, but all we do is talking. There's not much action that we do
Right.
for, let's say, like showing up for somebody, or like, and that's when I think all of us in that group realized that it's very important for us to be more mindful of the people around us, and we can't assume that you know somebody unless you actually sit down and have a conversation with them.
Right.
And yeah, so I think that's the way it is right now.
So
Yeah.
what is your definition of success?
My definition of success, I always tell people this is something which is very, very subjective. Very subjective. Success to me is being who you want to be, achieving what you have always felt is the peak, and being able to give to the people around, in ways that helps and supports them. And that's something that we're trying to do at All Is Well, my venture, to be able to support. And I don't say I'm already successful in the definition, in the essence of it, but yes, that's what we're trying to do and trying to be there. So that's success for me.
So helping others win is your way to success?
Yes. And seeing those smiles on their faces.
Okay.
That pays me more, when after a training session, the smiles would pay me more than the check. The check is important. Anybody, my client hearing that, they might just record it and you don't need the check. I do need that check. But what pays me more are the smiles. Yeah, the
What's your
happiness that I take behind would last longer than the happiness that I have when I get that check.
What's your answer? I'm just trying to compare both the answers to see
Yeah.
how do you guys think of success, because she was mentioning about her friend doing all well.
Right.
At least they're hoping that she's.
For me, I think just at the end of the day, being kind of satisfied with what I have done. For me, there's no like if I reach this XYZ goal, I have achieved success, or if I, if I earn this much money, I've achieved success. For me, I think it's more of like in the moment, if you know, you'll know kind of thing. Like when I get there, I'll know. But yeah, I think that moment where I feel like I've done enough for myself, for my family,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been able to, maybe give back also to my family, because whatever I've gotten to my family, I do feel a certain kind of, I wouldn't say debt, but a certain kind of like, out of love, the whatever I want to give back to my family, that along with, maybe being able to, for me, I think success would be if I can take an international trip every month. To me, that is success. And if I'm able to do that, I think
And
I'll be
take me along.
successful. Yeah.
Lovely. So, do you think everybody in your generation has that same definition?
I think so.
think-
Probably, yeah. I do think that. Because I think as a generation, we've started to prioritize experiences more in general. Travel as an experience, or, meeting new people as an experience. So, but it, I feel like a lot of people right now do have the, I need to earn this much. I need to, be at this position in an organization to be able to feel successful. For me, it's not that way, but I think for a lot of people, it is that. Like, they have this very specific set goal. And I think I don't like to do that, because that way I'm putting myself into a box and I'm not letting myself explore the other things that I could possibly explore if I, don't have a set goal.
Right.
But I do think a lot of people do have their set goals. A lot of people don't. In our generation, a lot of people are just like going with the flow and just. And I don't think that's wrong at all, because in some ways I'm doing that as well. That, I'm just embracing whatever's happening right now, and whatever the future holds, it holds. But yeah, I think for most people, success is reaching a certain XYZ goal that they have, earn a certain amount of money, be able to travel, be able to, go to a restaurant, a fancy restaurant if they want to. So yeah. I do
How
think
does
so.
how much does money have a percentage in how a person feels how much a person feels satisfied from their life?
I'm remembering that, that MasterCard ad, which is money can't buy everything. There's this ad, right, where they show a lot of luxury things, and it's like money can't buy. It's things are priceless. Money can't buy everything, but for everything else, there's MasterCard. So it's similarly. So you need money. We definitely, all of us need money, because the kind of lifestyles we have, even if it's not very lavish, we all need money. We all, it is important aspect. But I think the only difference would be, looking at what comes first for you. Is it money, or is it your purpose? Because I feel purpose is very important. So if you follow your purpose, money follows you, is what I believe in. But if you following money, you might just get lost, because then purpose, I don't think, follows you there. So money is important, definitely, but where are you headed is more important.
How does one find that purpose? If you were to give an advice to your daughter to find her purpose,
Right.
how would you tell to her?
So it's huge, it's huge. Like, just to do that, we conduct sessions as well to understand your purpose, to understand your value.
Okay.
There is a dedicated session that we do to help people understand. We take them through a process. There are ways and interactions that we do to help them understand. But at its core, it's really doing something that you feel happy about, but it is also uh, supporting at least someone else. That's what I would call purpose. Because if it's only about you, it cannot be purpose. It's just fulfilling your own need. Purpose is huge. It's bigger. It's much bigger than just being and working for yourself. So if I have to just tell her, I'll tell her, do what you wish to, do what you love, do what you like, but make sure what you do also helps and supports at least one person beside you.
What would you say your purpose is?
The thing should actually be society, helping the society, helping the community, but I'm not making that big, because even I would not, probably I'm also not working at that level at this moment. But even if I'm able to support that one person with few people, helps. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I think my purpose would be to, sort of maybe, like I think she mentioned, one is have an impact. And like I don't think it has to be like professionally also, like in my personal life as well. Being there for a friend, being I have also grown up in a joint family, so being there for a brother or sister of mine, and just being able to, I think, it's a very cliche thing to say, leave a lasting impact. But I think, as cliche as it sounds, it is very true, because at the end of the day, I mean, yeah, of course, purpose should also be something that you are driven by, something that you know kind of makes you feel like, this is what I'm living for. But rather than having something that is solely just related to you, I think I'm just repeating what my mom said, but I do actually believe in that. So, like, yeah, just having, in some or the other way, helping somebody, being there for them. And I think all of that again comes out down to like emotional and mental being, mental well-being, and that's why we do what we do at all as well. So yeah, that way we have very aligned purposes, I think.
I was having this conversation with one of my friend's dad, and he was telling me how this specific generation of Gen Alpha or Gen Z are much mentally weaker compared to their generation. Yes, sure, they talk about their problems, but they don't seem as mentally strong as we were. What do you think? Why do you think that is happening? Even if they're talking to their peers about their problems, they're still not able to cope up with situations. But earlier generation was.
Right.
What's causing this?
Would you like to take it or should I take it first?
I think you can take it.
So I think coping. See, what we were asked to do, I'm not sure whether it was coping. But when I say we, I'm not saying me. In general, earlier, when there were issues, there were challenges, or if I could put it under mental health, the only things we were told is, it's okay, everything will be all right, don't worry. And those were the aspects, we were told. We were all, they were made strong, in our mind. They held a strong place, that every time something of this sort came in, we were reminded of these aspects, that I am strong, I can do it, and all of these aspects. So this is what we were always told. Now I think the difference is, which is I think better, is people speak up, which is very important. Now I don't say what we did was not important. At the superficial level also, at that moment it is very important. Now, for example, somebody's going through trauma, distress. I can't say the person, I have to tell the person, right? Don't worry, everything will be all right. And then we go into the crux of it. So that is important, but that's not the solution. Getting deeper, opening up the conversation is what is required. I think initially, or in our times, maybe if it was done, I was not aware at least, and it was done less. Even if I speak to people, my friends of the same age, this was not a practice. People would not open up. And recently, friends, we all gathered, and we were, I think last year, when I say recently, my friends at my mother's place, and we were all speaking about certain aspects that were issues at that point in time. And 4 friends, we were all facing the same issues, but we never spoke about it to each other. We were very close friends. We called ourselves best friends, but we never spoke about it. And we were like, why didn't we ever speak about this to each other? But probably that's how things were. We felt it's okay, things will be fine. And that worked at that time also.
Right.
But now the degree has changed. Sometimes it's also the other side of it. Sometimes, people take it very casually also. If I've heard from, when I go to corporates and I hear from organizations and management, they would say that, given some work, they would say, this is stressing me out, this is I'm getting into depression. So they just casually, not always, I mean, obviously, but not always, but they're just casually using these words. Very, very casually, conveniently utilizing these words nowadays. So I think it's both ways. It's to the extremes, that there are some who are just utilizing it, and now some who are actually aware and want to work on it at a deeper level, and they are starting to work on it. So that's the difference, what was there. We were not even aware of the techniques. How can I? Even if I speak to someone, what will happen? Never aware that speaking in itself is a therapy, right? If you just let the person know. So I also, conduct counseling sessions, and there have been so many sessions where I do nothing. The person speaks, they vent their heart out, and they feel good and lighter. And the next time I meet them, they know their path. They know where I want to go. I hardly open my mouth. I would just give them a question or two, and that's it. So, people want that chance to be heard, which probably was not done earlier and is being done more now. People are there to listen and listen without making those judgments.
I think adding to that, I would just say one thing. My father, he happens to work in talent acquisition. So this is something that he's talked with me about a lot, and it keeps coming up. And I've recently also been reading a lot of articles about how the workforce that is now going to start working, the Gen Z, which is now going to be entering the workforce, is extremely, like my mom said, very, I would say, not mindful of these words, right? Like every deadline is not a burnout, and like every time you have a bad day, it's not depression. And so I think we use those terms very lightly. So
Very
I think,
graciously.
yeah. So I think just that is something that leads to what you were talking to, right? Just like us feeling that we're not doing okay. But I think that also stems from the fact that the kind of upbringing that us as a generation have, we're much more protected. We're much more like we're made to feel like we're heard out, and so for that reason we feel like, okay, if I have this problem, it must be a serious issue. But I think that's where the balance comes in, where you have to, sort of, I think the line between just everyday stress and a serious issue is very blur. But that's where, you have to sit with yourself, ponder, reflect, and, sort of try to understand, is this something that I can deal with it on my own, or is this something that I need to seek help for? At the end of the day, it's subjective. It's something very trivial could trouble you, and you might need to seek help for that, and that is completely okay too. But if there is something that you can sit with, talk to yourself about, and deal with, I think that's a much more organic way to do it, because that way, the things that you tell yourself, not all of that can you say to another person if you're talking to them, right? So I think, yeah, that's something that would really help everybody at large.
Ma'am, how do you draw a line between where this is something I have to deal with, this is something I have to tell somebody else? Making always keeping in sure that you're also strengthening your mental strength.
Right. So you're talking specifically, are you asking in respect to all as well?
Yes,
The
also,
work?
yeah.
I think what is very important, so we have someone working with us as well, and we've had interns also, we have interns. So what is very important, and what I keep, prioritizes that each one of us should have a learning. It's because we tend to love our comfort zones. We tend to feel, oh, this is the work I know best. So what I ensure is, there is learning, and what is also important is they're ready for that learning. They open up for that learning. So if it is me doing something, or Tushika doing something, or for someone who's with us working on that, our interns, I would like to make sure, and I hope I'm able to do that, that there's this learning curve that is going up for them, all of them, and for all of us, including me. Because the moment, the day we are not learning, we stagnated. And I think stagnation and entrepreneurship can never go hand in hand. So learning is, something I really feel is very, very important.
Right. There is one line I want to specify here, is that I heard that somewhere on Twitter.
Yeah.
It's that every moment of growth is preceded by pain.
Every moment of growth
Is preceded by pain.
By
Pain.
pain.
Some kind of pain, a little pain.
Oh, you're saying pain. I heard pain.
No,
Okay.
no, pain.
Definitely, I think I don't know I can't say that, but the way I relate to it is you will put in your best when you've experienced something not good because you want to get there, the other side of it. When
The
you've
drive is more.
experienced, yes, the drive, the motivation to be there, to cross those lines is more. So, one will tend to, when there is pain, maybe I will not go by the exact wordings, the vice versa may be true. When there is pain, you tend to, uh, whatever it was, grow more, or what was the first part of it you said?
Every moment of pain,
growth.
every moment of growth is preceded by a moment of pain.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so I take the pain part first, that, whenever there is pain, I can assure that there's growth,
Right.
right? So that is something I believe in. So, pain is nothing but a challenge. So every time, we're facing a challenge, it's preparing us, that challenge, that issue, that pain is preparing us to face something better, to face something more challenging, and we're learning, we're growing, we're becoming better versions of our own selves, which is, I think, the ultimate. To be able to, if I get back to the point, to be able to achieve that inner peace, we have to be better every day, better, not compared to anyone else but our own selves.
Right. Ma'am, do you recommend, at least this generation, because everybody's saying you're a little weak, when mentally weak, so they should focus on curing themselves first and then think about talking to someone else? Is it the right approach to do it? Let's say I'm going through something. The way I see it is, maybe do not talk to anybody else for few days. Try to have that internal monologue inside your head,
Right.
saying, "Acha, this is okay, this is fine," and try to calm yourself down, and then think of talking to somebody else.
It is same, like, in the airlines they say first help yourself and then the other, but I wouldn't say that's always the case, and that can and should always be the case, right? So you can somebody who's drowning, you need not jump into the river or to the pond to save that person.
Right.
You can still be on the bank or maybe on a boat and be able to help that person.
Right.
So it's not necessary that you have to first know swimming to be able to help that person. You
Right.
can still do that, but it's important that you're working on yourself, because otherwise the conversation that you have, the kind of the quality of the conversation, the way that the approach and the way that you're trying to help that person will not be meaningful, because it'll be hollow, because you yourself are not trying to learn and practice that. And if we're trying to just speak about the same to the other, the person will know it's not genuine. They will
Right.
definitely know it. You can feel, when somebody comes and greets us, whether they've genuinely, empathetically greeted us, you can know that.
You can know the
You will say
intentions.
that, he didn't even want to greet, that was just for the
Right.
sake of it. So that's the thing, the person who was on the receiving end also would know whether you're genuine or not. And you can be genuine only if you've practiced it yourself, or at least you cannot reach the ultimate. Nobody ever can. We are not aiming at becoming saints, right? Not all
Right.
of us. So even if you're in that journey, it really helps, and that's also a learning for us. So being genuine and trying to practice, learn, and support, all of it goes along the way.
Right. I have had this kind of learning from my friend group here, that the more they talk about their problems,
Right?
the more they associate with those problems, and the group as a whole kind of mentally fixates on that this person has these problems and they are associated with it only.
Absolutely.
Whenever they get into a room, not intentionally maybe, but still there is a little sense of, hey, he might be going through something.
Right.
He something happened, something
Right.
might happen.
Right.
Don't tease him, don't joke around him, he might cry.
The judgments.
The judgments are there. So in that way I was thinking, should a person actually tell to everybody or not tell their problems to everybody?
See, when that aspect is there, telling or not telling your problem to people, it's about people you trust. You know who, tell your problems to someone who would listen to you. give you, lend you that listening ear and not be judgmental about you.
Right.
When I say judgmental, see, little bit of that happens in each one of us. When somebody is telling us their story, we tend to get to that side, but not being to the extremes of being judgmental, and just uh, making sure that the person would be there and probably not share it further. And you should be okay if that person shares it further also, because human tendency might happen that in situations they tend to share it further.
Right.
So I think that's something that we should not be concerned about. Arey, aage jaake would that person not be sharing this or doing this? What is important for us at that moment is, will this conversation, after I talk to this person, will it help me? Will I feel good? Or will I wonder or ponder or think or be under pressure that, now what will happen? Will this person share it further? Will he do this? Will he do that? If this thought is coming to you, then definitely that's not the right person for you to share. But when you feel at calm, at solace, at peace, that okay, let me share and I feel good, and the person is just simply hearing, I think that's enough.
Another little deep question that I had, that it happens with leaders most often, that whenever a leader shows their emotional side,
Right.
the weak side, the whole group tends to, get down a little, saying he might be not, he's not the right person to lead the group.
Okay.
So, if let's say I'm a leader of a group, how do I make sure that I'm staying strong as
Right.
well as not going on the wrong tracks?
I think what you're talking about is vulnerability, and that is important for a leader. I think all the leaders are recognizing that it's very important for us to be vulnerable, to be talking about the challenges that we're facing, and we're seeing celebrities doing that. Recently, we saw Virat Kohli
Right.
also sharing,
Right.
about the issues that at the mental health level that he faced. We've also seen Deepika Padukone doing it. So when these celebrities do it, probably it's perceived in a different manner. But I think now is the time, and that's what the leaders are doing, and that's what I have seen has been very welcoming by the people around. Also, is being vulnerable, sharing what they've gone through, because that makes the other employees feel that they're in a safe space. If my
Right.
leader can face it, and now that I face it, there's nothing wrong, because he has been there where he is, and
Right.
probably this employee wants to be there.
Right.
So that would really help this employee feel confident, feel the worth of the job. So, in my opinion, leaders being vulnerable is a very good sign of an organization that's thriving. It's important actually. There will be a lot of people who will mock, who will speak differently, and that's a part and parcel, right?
Right.
Everything, even the best of things will have, even a diamond would have certain imperfections, if I may call it. But that's the way it is. So let's leave that aside. But for the growth of the organization, for the growth of the employees at large, that's important.
Another important question I had, that amongst all of the entrepreneurs that I've known, entrepreneur friends and mentors and guides, everybody told me there was this moment in their life where everything went wrong, and that maybe that situation that they went through gave them the drive towards achieving this much success.
Okay.
And I've seen in countries like Europe or Italy, you don't see people who are lot ambitious. They're not that ambitious compared to people who might living in third world countries, or some people in America as well. America, I think it's like a whole energy thing that
Right.
everybody has to grow. It's a whole country's thing. So how does a person stay ambitious but also not end up messing up their mental health?
So I think Ambition, I feel, is very important. Having goal is important, but more important than the goals, than the ambition, is the path that you follow. You know, how you really working towards, or have you really worked and, you know, curated the path you want to walk?
Right.
That's very important. And when talking of mental health, and you know, these not really disturbing your mental health, I think all of this, whether it be setting your goals, whether it be setting your ambitions, and ultimately driving the path or curating and creating that path, all of this has to be your idea, has to be you. Because the moment somebody else's ideas comes in, you cannot be you. You will feel disturbed. Your own thought process wouldn't align to what you're trying to do. That doesn't stop us from taking suggestions. See, that's exactly what we do in counseling, right? In counseling, we would never advise or suggest a person to do something, because the moment I advise someone, the moment I suggest someone, that's coming from my life. That's the person I am. That's my thought process. That's what I align to. And if that person tries to bring in what I'm saying, or what I'm bringing in, they will mess up their lives completely.
Right.
So, what, you know, has to be very unique in counseling, of which what has to be the path in counseling is always, you know, we will help them come up with aspects that they understand, that they feel it's themselves, when they feel it's me. So we will ask the right questions for them to come out with, you know, what lies within them. Similarly, you know, when we're trying to have this path, it's okay to take suggestions from people. It's okay to, you know, because this is a world of competition. This is a world of social media.
Right.
See, that one has done this, this, that. I will also do it. But you have to see, does this align with the person you are? Is it still me? And what is better is, how can I still be me and do that? That's the question we can ask ourselves. And if you're doing that, I think mental health is all good. The moment we try to imitate others, the moment we try to be who we are not, our mental health goes for a toss.
So we'll end the episode on this profound thought that you had. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much,
for being
Seth.
on the
Pleasure being
episode.
here. Thank you so much.
Thanks.